Thanks everyone for joining the podcast. Today I am here with Marta Jackson. She is a local realtor based in Minnesota, Twin Cities area. And yeah, we're going to talk today about her business, a little bit of what she does with working with buyers and sellers, and a little bit on the Minnesota market. So thank you, Marta, for joining me today.
You bet. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you just kind of give a little, elevator pitch on kind of who you are and what you do.
Okay. Okay. So I am not your typical real estate agent. I have a mechanical engineering degree and a marketing degree. So I worked at General Motors for 10 years. I worked at Medtronic for 12. I own my own company. And then when we sold the company, I got the kids through high school and decided I want to be a real estate agent because we were buying distressed properties. And so I really like it, but I'm very detailed and very organized. So I think those are some things that really help. And I'm a little bit of a savant when it comes to pricing. So I'm very good at kind of targeting pricing when I do a listing.
So why is targeting pricing when you're doing a listing so important?
Well, you want to go out with the right price to start with. And if you go out too high, it's going to sit on the market forever. And if you go out too low, your sellers are going to think they gave it away. So I always tell them that the market is going to dictate the price of the house no matter what you do. But I'd like to give them guidelines on where to start and what to think about and always have a plan of action. One thing I have found is buyers always think their house is worth more than it is. I mean, it's kind of your natural instinct of, my house is best. And so trying to explain to them what's a comp going to look like, what's a fresh buyer's eyes going to look like at your house, and what are you going to expect in the process is very important.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously a properly priced house is probably the most important thing on the listing side. And then obviously like the photos and staging and all that stuff. But yeah. I saw something came across like a couple months ago or maybe whatever, like they were like listing a house for $1 or
Right. I
whatever.
love it.
And then they were just gonna see like where it
Yeah.
went from there. Just kind of crazy people. But yeah, I thought that was super interesting. Um
Very daring on the seller's part to agree to
For
that.
s for sure. I mean, I guess it could work out in your favor too if you get, like, a huge bidding war, you never know. Um, but that's kinda I mean, that's cool. I mean, because I was in the same obviously, I didn't work for Medtronic or anything like that, but I had a different career before I went into real estate. I was an executive chef for 15 years,
Love that.
in the hospitality industry, and it's the same exact thing where you took your prior experiences and put it into your business. Same thing with me. I mean, chefs are very systematic and standard operating procedures for everything. I mean, that's why I think my team is so successful is because we have that all pat down. So for sure, that's awesome. Um, what? So let's move into like kind of what you do in your business. So you mentioned with me, prior to the phone call that you work really with both, buyers and sellers. You're a little bit more focused on listing side, but you also work with like first time home buyers and people like relocating. Um, so yeah, give me a little bit of insight on kind of what's your favorite, like kind of what do you like to really do, where your passion lies there.
Yeah. So, my passion lies actually both listing and buying, but on the buyer side, it really is on training and education. Just you want to make sure your buyer's fully informed and they know what to expect when they go into a house. So I like to give them, it's almost like a 45-minute to an hour kind of update of what to expect in real estate and, how to, interview for a lender, how to interview a real estate agent. Maybe I'm not the best fit. It's really important that they have a good connection and then what to expect with the inspection and all that stuff. And so I really go through that very thoroughly. And as I mentioned, I want to make sure that they understand what closing costs are so they know what the full outlay of costs are. I also love to go through the market data because I think it's really important for them to understand what the state of the market is. And as we know, we had been in a seller's market for a really long time. And now
Yeah.
we're kind of moving more in that neutral market. So in a neutral market from a buyer side, often it means they have more leeway. They can actually maybe ask for some closing costs or expect to have a full inspection and not be terrified by it. But in the same sense, I've been seeing a lot of the prices between like 300 and 450, multiple bids still going on like crazy. So
Yep.
it's really difficult. But on the seller
So
side, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Okay. But on the seller side, I just love going through a house with them and kind of I will usually do my first blush would be staging with their existing stuff if they have good stuff or bringing in a stager, going to kind of go through those discussions, giving them an idea of the market and really explaining to them though is that When you put your house on the market, sometimes it's like someone telling you have an ugly baby because you love your house. It's wonderful, but then you get this feedback and you're like, "Ow, that really hurt." Because you don't see things the way a buyer does. So you try to have people just kind of take a step back and look at their eyes through a fresh set of eyes of what a new buyer would look like at looking through their house. And I'm kind of detailed. I kind of go through really detailed.
Well, I mean, it's super important to be detailed because it's a very big piece of listing a home is getting the staging correct and the pictures and the price like you alluded to before. So yeah, I mean I bet you that your listing or your sellers actually really, really appreciate that. But yeah, like I can also see the other side of it too. It's where if you're doing a little too much criticizing, you have to have kind of that bedside manner,
Very careful. Yeah.
pat down
Yeah,
for
but it
sure.
is kind of fun to show them, like, "Okay, look at these listings. Look at this one. Clearly, it wasn't staged. Your toilet seat lid's up," or you know what I mean? Is there's a whole bunch of then I say, "Would you buy that house? Is that attractive to you? You wanna walk in that house? Or just a nice, crisp, clean house that, has the nice lines and stuff, draw you in a little bit more?"
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned you come from a different, background. When you moved into real estate for maybe that newer agent that is trying to start their business up and get going with listings and buyers and the whole shebang, where did you really focus or how did you get your business when you first started? And how are you still getting the business right now?
So when I first started, what I did was I asked my broker who the top agents were in my office. And then I sat down with them and I talked to them about how they got their business started. And I asked them, can I go on your listing appointment with you? Can I go on showing appointment with you? And then can I do open houses for you? And so I just did a ton of open houses for the top agents. And so that helped a ton. And then I also was available for some of the agents if they went out of town vacation. I said I'd be happy to show your houses. So I was super, super active in my brokerage company. um, the other thing I did was what they tell you to do is do that letter to everyone you know and say, "Hey, I'm in real estate." And it's not something that's fun that I didn't like doing, but I did do it. And then I started doing lunch appointments with all my associates that I had. When my kids went through high school, there were a lot of parents from high school. I reached out to all my old Medtronic colleagues and things like that. And I really did try to do one or two coffees a week just to keep things going and to get started. And then it's that domino effect. I've been doing it 12 years now, and it's amazing how that, you look at this person and they are a referral from this referral to that referral to and you're like, oh my gosh, there's like five people back started this whole chain. So it's really fun.
Yeah, how do you now, obviously going from really hitting the pavement with the beginning of your career to now you're probably a little bit more able to rely on your past client database. How do you stay in touch with them and love on them so they are going to send you, like their family and friends and coworkers?
Yeah. So I do keep a list of all my clients and I try to make sure that I send them a handwritten note at least once or twice a year. So I do actually do sit down and do cards like when I'm in my mode, it's kind of hard summertime, you get a little out of it, but I usually do two handwritten notes a day, Monday through Friday. And I'll depending if it's their birthday, anniversary, or just a hi, I've been thinking about you. And I do that. And then I just kind of go through a rotation of calling somebody and just saying, hey, I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing. So I do actually stay in touch with majority of my clients, I have to say. Vast majority I try to stay in touch with.
That's good. I heard a stat. It was like 92% of agents don't follow up with their past client database. They're always just looking for the new lead and not really following up with the ones that got in the business before. So it's kind of crazy
Yeah, and most importantly, ask for a Google review. You want them to review a Google page. I found that super helpful because I've actually been getting people calling me off the internet recently from my Google, and I have never had that before. But I have, I think of like 60 something reviews, and so it helps a lot.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Google's probably one of my biggest lead sources. I probably get 100 leads a year from that because I've really focused on getting a ton of 5-star reviews. So yeah, Google's powerful. Um, so let's just kind of go with like buyers in the market right now. What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes you're seeing your buyers make right now, or maybe other buyers that might not be working with you because you're obviously educating them on what to do correctly?
I actually think the biggest mistake is looking for the perfect home. I honestly find they're extremely fussy. And it's okay, but I always try to explain the 80-20 rule. You're gonna have 80-20. You're never gonna find that perfect house. And so some of these buyers get really afraid of something that really is not a big deal. But the first time home buyers, they haven't been educated. I think sometimes it's really hard that people don't really understand the maintenance of a house. And so that fear gives them fear, and so some of those things I think, but I really I really just find a lot of buyers are just kicking the tires and afraid to make that leap and take it on right now. There's a lot more showings per transaction than there used to be.
Yeah. How are you helping those buyers out? Let's just say I'm the buyer, me and my wife are going through, properties with you. We've seen 5 or 10 of them, just not seeing. There's always like one thing on the home that just doesn't fit us, so we move on. How are you kind of changing that conversation to really kind of have them understand, like, hey, you're not going to find the perfect home, especially if they're first time home buyers. This is going to be your first home. That's going to be like your move up home. You're going to be able to build equity in this home and use that one to maybe build your dream home that you want to in the future. Is that kind of the conversation, or kind of where are you going with it?
Well, what I do often is just separate them and ask them for their top three. Say, okay, I want to know, because we've been seeing houses now for a while to get you a feel. Because, it's hard to do that right away if they're first time home buyers because they don't really often know exactly what's important to them. But after seeing, 5, 10 houses, they're like, okay, I need a yard, or I don't want a split entry or something like that. So I ask them to give me their top three that are non-negotiable. And then we sit down in a room and we discuss, why is that important to you? And sometimes they'll say, I want 4 bedrooms, but really they just need 3 bedrooms and an office. They just need that extra room. So you have to come to that discussion because we've been looking at 4 bedroom houses, but they're kind of bridging their price range. So I find that's important. The other hardest part is the price of the house. So say you're approved to 400,000 and you're seeing all these houses at 400,000. Well, the problem is that people are overbidding, so you have to
Hmm.
know that you're probably not gonna get that $400,000 house. You're probably gonna get something a little bit lower or a $400,000 house that's been on the market for a while. And then you
Yeah.
have to say, "Okay, it's been on the market for a while. Why has it been on the market for a while? Is this stuff I can take care of and be happy?" So those things are really important.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good advice. So now on the listing side, so when you're sitting down with listings and your sellers, and they're in love with their home, obviously they've lived in there for 20 years, and you come there with a price that you guys think that you should list it for to be really competitive and, spark a lot of interest, and you're a lot lower than where they're at. How does that conversation go to really kind of dial in those listing or your sellers to list the home at the right price?
Yeah. So I always give them lots of facts and data that back up what I have to say. But I also say, ultimately, you're the seller. It is your house. You do make that choice on what to price it at. I will tell you, I disagree with this price. And here's my course of action. If we list it at your price, I want you to agree that if we don't have any showings or if X number of showings after the first week, we're going to do a price reduction and we're going to be aggressive about it because those days are really important. So I have a map out of what's important to do if we go to a higher price.
That's good. Yeah. So you like set those expectations with like timelines already. So it's not even like a conversation. It's just like, all right, we hit X day. This is the price that we drop it to.
Exactly, and I want them to
That's good.
agree to it, so because otherwise
Yeah,
it's just like, "You know what? I'm gonna waste my time and my money helping you if you're not gonna if you have an unrealistic expectation on the price of the
for
house."
sure. Well, and I mean, that doesn't make you guys look bad either, but I mean, it just, yeah, I mean,
No, but
it,
it is really frustrating though, it's like,
yeah.
"Oh."
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. I bet. All right, let's jump to like the Minnesota market. So we're end of summerish. It's crazy that we're already kind of like midsummer, almost getting into fall. Kids are going back to school, all that jazz. What are you really seeing with the let's do buyers? What are you seeing in the buyers market right now, or actually just the real estate,
Yeah.
landscape in general?
So what I'm seeing is that it was a very late start to summer for the real estate market. So it didn't kick in until maybe mid June. Really busy through June. The last 2 weeks of July, actually ever since the 4th, was just really quiet, but it's been busy all August. So I'd say it's picked up quite a bit already.
Hmm.
I see a lot of buyer activity. I see a lot of new listings coming on. When I watch the listings, but you also see a lot of price drops. So, if you log into the MLS and you get your dashboard, it's like 1,200 listings, 700 price reductions. So that's telling me that the ones that are on there are staying on there and the ones that are well priced go really fast.
So buyers have a very good opportunity right now, especially going into the fall and in the winter. That's
100%.
awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
So with you, talking with those buyers that are in a position, depending on what price range, because obviously that changes a lot. Let's just say you have a first time home buying couple that might be a little bit tight on cash. What are you talking to them right now, and what strategies are you using for them to get them into the home really successfully?
So really just having realistic expectations of what price they can really have for that house if they are tight on cash, because sellers are not normally willing to concede on closing costs. The only time they will is if it's actually a long, it's been on the market for a long time. And then if that's the situation, you're going to say, okay, we're going to be really realistic here. We're not going to say, I want to take it 10,000 below asking price and ask for 10,000 closing costs, because the seller's just going to balk and say, no, well, you got to pick your battles. And obviously, if you're short on cash, closing costs is your more important thing for you. So maybe you do the full price, but you say, "Okay, I need closing costs. That's gonna help me." Um, One of the other things is an inspection. You say that you're either pass fail or you're only looking for major issues, so that those sellers have confidence that the buyer's not gonna sit there and nitpick little things. That seems to help. It's kinda hard though when they're short on cash, because I typically in a multiple bid situation, there's all these different things you can do. You can do an appraisal gap clause. I don't recommend waiving inspection. I really never do, because I feel like that's your opportunity to walk through that house and see it in detail. But I will
Sure.
stop up and say, if you're going to do an inspection, just say you're only looking for major catastrophic things. So you're not going to ask for anything else that's over like $3,000 for whatever they're comfortable with, to give that seller peace of mind. Because one of the other agents in my office did a poll for listing, and what do listing people want the most? And it was like multiple bids, over asking, no inspection requirements. And everyone's like, I don't want anything to do with inspection, because once you get the price and you're ready to list that house, I don't think they want to deal with it. They're done.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I listed my house, that was my biggest like fear. I really kept up on everything, but yeah, it was like I accepted that price and I wanted that price what I accepted it for. So, and then I'm the one that preaches, to my clients to go get some side pay closing costs if you can to help out. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things in Minnesota too for first time home buyers, especially with the grants and first time home buyer, down payment assistance programs, and there's county ones and city. There's just a ton that we can leverage. Okay, well,
And the
let's
other
go
thing I
into
need to help from my lender better is actually those programs do help first time home buyers immensely. And I don't have that like bucket of list.
yeah, absolutely. Coming from our standpoint, I have a team that really, helps do all that. But when you are lending on them, I mean, they're difficult. I mean, there's a lot of things that come up. There's a ton of guidelines that you have to really think about. You can make mistakes and like miss one thing and the deal's dead because of that mistake. So it's a little nerve-wracking. But,
Right.
if you do them a lot, that's where it just becomes second nature. Especially the Minnesota down payment assistance, because it's just so broad and easy to use.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so tie that into a little bit about what you just were talking about. So, for you, really, what's important for that lender or realtor relationship for a referral partner for you?
Availability is super important. I don't work 9 to 5, and unfortunately, I need my lenders not to work 9 to 5 too. And that's hard, because I'm trying to have balance in my life too. In fact, I've been trying to have this rule that at 8 o'clock my phone goes off, because I'm usually the one who does it all the time. But it's really important. Like on a weekend, if I'm putting an offer in, I really want my lender to be available. One, to do a customized pre-approval, but also to reach out to that listing agent and say, "Hey, I've pre-approved this person. They're really good. I really want this person. I mean, I like working with them. I highly suggest you look at them for their offers," because it gives a lot of lenders don't take the time to do that.
Hmm.
Most of them don't, and it really helps. And as a listing agent, I always call the lender. I will call every lender, at least every lender on the ones that we're considering. And if you don't do that, you could get screwed. I mean, you don't know if they know you from Adam. So
Hmm.
to me,
Yeah.
the lender is very important. The other thing is to work with us through um, issues and problems. Say you have a low appraisal, you know, work with me on that low appraisal. In fact, I have a list right now of bad appraisers. So on the listing side, if I ever see that appraiser's name come through, I will reject it. I will call the lender and say, "Hey, give me another appraiser. He is bad. I will never use that person."
That's actually a really good idea. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a realtor do that, and I do the same exact thing. It's easier for me because I just have a panel of appraisers. So if I get a bad appraiser, I just remove them from my actual panel so they can never, take an appraisal from me. But yeah, I mean, that's super important because some of them just get, and then it's also too, it's like you just alluded to, the helping with a low appraisal, doing an ROV, or which is a reconsideration of value.
Yeah.
It almost is like you're like telling the real or the appraiser that they suck at their job. So like the likelihood of you getting, yeah, they don't like them. And I have a very good success rate of increasing those is because we
Mhm.
work with the realtors and listing agents and both sides to really get really good comps that support what you guys want for a price. So yeah, I think that's super important. All right, cool. Well, we need to wrap up here in a little bit because you got an appointment. But where's your favorite restaurant? Where do you like to go to eat? Since I'm a former chef, I always like to ask that question.
My favorite restaurant, it's a tough one. I actually like Rudy's Red Eye Grill because they have the
There you go.
outside patio upstairs, which is
Yeah, which one has the patio?
the Rudy's Red Eye Grill. It's in White Bear.
Okay, White Bear. Yeah, there's a couple. I think there's like one in Lakeville,
Is
White
there
Bear
really?
Lake.
I don't think
Yeah.
there was one. Okay, that's the only one I know. And their food's good. I mean, it's not fancy. It's just fun. And then I actually like Nicollet Island Inn. It's kind of a fun
Okay.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's really, yeah. We like that place a lot too. All right. Well, thanks. So I'm me and my wife, if we're gonna go somewhere and it's right down the street and we love the food and the drinks, Cove. Um, Cove restaurant. If it's gonna be like a something that we don't do a lot, and go either like Colita or Pajarita is a really good one in downtown Edina. So yeah, it's just kind of those little what do you call it, specific restaurants that we really like.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I like the little specific ones too, the fun ones.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Marta, thank you for joining me today. It was awesome. If anybody wants to reach out to you, email you, text you, call you, get in
Mhm.
touch with you, how can they do that?
Okay, and my phone number is super easy. It's 612-770-7899 and Marta.Jackson at results.net. Love to hear from you.
Perfect. All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Alex. Have a good day.
All right. Bye bye. All
Bye.
right. Well, cool. Thanks.